Welcome to the Biz Gone Social podcast. We help entrepreneurs navigate how to get known, get customers, and get the edge over their competition. Here is your host, Lorraine Duncan.
So here we are on the Biz Gone Social podcast, and I'm so glad to be here. My promise to you, as always, is I want to give you a little bit of verbal caffeine that's going to energize your business and help you stay social. Because after all, don't you want to be the business that everyone's talking about? I know I do. And I'm so excited today to have Matthew Stafford with me. Welcome, Matthew.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
So tell my audience a little bit about your business and what you do.
Okay, so we really cut our teeth, like we were talking about before the show, back in the e-commerce. About 10 years ago, I was really, really good at running Facebook ads and did a lot of that to generate our money. And what I realized in that process was that the more that I worked on the website, the better my ads worked and the more consistent they were. So everybody was always teaching, Facebook ads. And when I looked at it, I thought well, actually traffic's not my problem, because the average website or even e-commerce store converts less than 2% of their leads or 2% of their clients into customers. And so for every 100 people that visit, that means 98 people were leaving and only 2 were giving them money. And everybody else is talking about drive more ads. And I said, why don't we get 2 more of those people, of those 98 that left, and we would double our business on the same amount of traffic. And so that kind of led me down my journey of working on the website, and literally the entire business has been created around optimize your website. You'll convert a lot more, which actually cuts your ad costs or social, which most people get them from social. It cuts your ad costs down so much that you can go dominate your market.
So it's interesting that you say all this, because it's like my husband is a brick and mortar company. He owns a plumbing company. He gets about probably 30 calls a day that tell him he needs to do SEO, and he is doing SEO. And they all say, that they promise this, the sun, the moon, and the stars. How is it that you figured out a way that when traffic does come to the site, that it's actually the site, and it's the site that you actually have to optimize? What is it that you're doing that helps you optimize people's sites?
Yeah, so we track every single click. We know everything that they've touched, how far that they've scrolled, how long it takes the page to load. Google Analytics will give you their base level, will give you enough metrics that you can certainly improve your site enough that you'll see a noticeable difference. But over the years, we've continued to get much, much better at it and do it. We use Tag Manager, which is basically a filtering system so that we can look at the data any way that we want to later on. And by doing that, we can see what people are doing and what they're not doing. And to be really honest, the majority of the wins that we get in the beginning of a site are removing things. So most people think they need to be all things to everybody. And what they don't realize is that when they are that, or there's way too much confusion, the people leave. So if you make it very simple, what's the 20% of actions that gets you 80% of the leads? And we try to focus on that first, and then over time add to it. But those are a couple of different things that you could do right away that would make a big difference, is to stop thinking that everybody's your customer, because that's not true. Most of them leave. And if you are trying to cater to most of them, then the ones that actually want to do business with you don't even know it, because your message is just too confusing or watered down.
I love that. I recently been thinking of that maybe at some point I'll niche down into just working with a certain person.
Yeah.
And not even like, so for instance, I could work with B2B, but maybe niche down to something like real estate or attorneys or, you know, HVAC companies or whatever that may be. It seems like the people who are niching down are the people who actually are winning. You know, it's interesting that you say, you know, that the first thing you do is remove things, because people would not even, what? You know, like when you first said that, I'm like, what are we removing? You know,
Yeah.
but what do you think, or in your expertise, what would you say is the number one people mistake with, you know, make with their website optimization?
Yep. So about 60% of people never scroll. So a lot of their most important information is down below the fold. And so realistically, they're like, oh no, that's on the website. We totally understand that, but nobody's ever seen it. And so you need to know like what is the most relevant information for that 20%, and then make sure that's above the fold. By doing that, that will change. I mean, you can 2-3x a business just by doing that, because when you are trying to cater to everybody, the people that actually do want to do business with you end up not. And I always try to explain it like this to people. Your website is really your conversation with your customer. And so it's your liaison. And if you have somebody that just sits there and talks the entire time and never stops talking, the person's not going to enjoy the conversation. And so if they have to go through nonstop information to find the thing that they're looking for because you haven't made it easy to find, they leave. They don't want to be in that conversation.
I love that. You know, I think about that all the time. I always tell people sometimes, you know, it's kind of like making that night, you know, asking somebody to make a 911 call, you know, instead of, you know, you're in a crowd, somebody has an emergency, and instead of yelling someone, you know, dial 911, you actually point to someone and say, will you call 911? Because if you say somebody, everybody's going to assume that somebody else is doing it, and then 911 doesn't get called.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that. You know, there's a lot of people who have a limited marketing budget, especially startups. What is something that they can do to make the most of their limited marketing budget?
Well, I will tell you how I started. Like I'd sold a little over $15 million worth of t-shirts in 2 years. And so I thought I thought a lot of my marketing prowess. And what I realized, I actually paid a guy $1,000 to teach me Google Analytics. And I will tell you that $1,000 is what launched our business that has went on to do, you know, millions of dollars a year in optimization for people. And so that $1,000 was probably the best money I've ever spent. I didn't have to pay it to Google. Google does it for you for free on your website. It'll be a generic version of it, and it's plenty to get started. But learn like how fast your site loads. What are the most visited pages if you have 2 or 3 pages, and then optimize those first. And make sure that, you know, your lead capture is working properly. Know where people are clicking, and Google will give you that information. And again, you don't have to be twice as good as your competitor. Your site needs to just be about 10% better, and you'll take all their customers.
Nice. So here's a question for you. So it's like, you know, we live in a social media world now today. How important is it to have social media platforms be on them, such as Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, X now instead of Twitter?
Yeah.
You know, that will enhance your website? I mean, is that the strategy that should be looked at when it comes to, you know, website optimization? Should there be a good social media presence?
Yeah. So this might not be the popular opinion, but it's literally from hundreds of millions of dollars worth of data. If you're using social to drive people to your website, then the last thing that you want on your website is your social media presence. And the reason why I say that is because people are addicted to it. And so if you've spent money on ads or spent money on social to get them to come to your site, the last thing that you want them to do is, with social signals and stuff all around your website, is remind them to go see what Joe or Kate, their best friend, has posted, the latest meme. Once they're on your site, you want them to do whatever your site is designed for. And so typically, if you need to have the social links, put them in the footer, but don't put them on the pages. Don't put them near the buttons. Don't do any of that, because people are legitimately addicted to it, and it will distract them from accomplishing what you want them to do.
Wow. That's, definitely not what I was told. I was always told to make sure you have the social media icons above the fold and on the right hand side.
But it's typically not your social media that they're opting into and you're doing business with them. So
right.
that's
great advice. I mean, I think that's I learned something today just from hearing that, because I always, advise people.
Yeah. So we track that, and we would see people leave, and not complete the purchase. And so, you want them to do whatever the site is, either give you their email and do that, not get distracted. And so, if you got to have them, they're good for backlinks. So put them in the footer down below everything else. And you'll get, they can find them if they look for them, but definitely you don't want to trigger that dopamine hit that they need, every 3-4 minutes.
Yeah. Or, that will bring them into a whole thing of TikTok videos that they can watch forever and ever and not even. Wow, that's great. I mean, I hope everybody out there is listening. That's probably the best piece of advice that you can get today, especially if you already have your website, because I know that a lot of website designers out there will put those social media icons right on the top of the page.
Yep.
So this is the part of the show that we get a little real. What do you love most about being in business for yourself?
What do I love most? I actually have fun coming to work every day. So we are in a probably a unique situation where the clients that we work for, we choose that. And so for me, and it's also very fulfilling because we do help people make more money, which gives them the ability to accomplish their dreams. And so that does feel very, very good to me.
Yeah, I love that. It's always important to, have a reason to come into work every day.
Yeah.
We all, some of our friends who, or maybe some family doesn't understand what we do, but as being an entrepreneur and owning your own business and everything, some people think it's really cool, but both of us know that it's hard work. And what would you say in today's world is your biggest struggle as being a business owner?
Probably, I can tell you what it was up until the last year or so, because I've done a lot of work around it since then, but it was probably like an imposter syndrome, where just because I had done good in one area and it would work everywhere, people would, say things about that. I'm sure I've cost our business a lot of money by not accepting it, but deflecting it. And so I would say that's probably been one of the harder struggles is, thinking that you're good enough, that, what you do have is valuable, and being willing to share that. Most people don't understand that if you have some knowledge in an area, you can be very valuable to other people, even if it seems normal to you.
Yeah, that's so true. I think a lot of us sometimes, I know I have suffered with imposter syndrome, and I know that we all go through it at some point in our business. So thank you for sharing that. One piece of advice, universal. So my audience is huge. So it's, people who, have been seasoned, business owners. Some are startups, some are actually thinking they're corporate and they're thinking of owning their own business. What would be one piece of universal advice that you could give?
I would say go for it, because there's no reason. I mean, there's no reason why we should have regret later on, or talk about, oh, I wanted to do that thing. I would say that it's probably never been easier to start a business. And I was just in a mastermind this weekend, and I legitimately saw these two tools that gives me the ability to make a whole bunch of things that I would have to hire out, find a creator and do all of that. And now I can literally just type in what I want and it'll create the image, and then I can go, oh, I want it a little different, and it'll create it a little different. And that alone will save hours and hours, sometimes weeks of turnaround for some images that you need for particular things. It's now as fast as you can think about it. And so, yeah, I would just say, really figure out what you want to do and go for it. Give it a shot.
I love that. Well, I want to thank you very much for being a part of this show. And if somebody resonated with you today, or they need help on their website optimization, how would they get in touch with you?
They could just go to buildgrowscale.com, and we have a bunch of different free resources, or there's a YouTube channel there that they can look and learn. And then if they enjoy the information or think that it's relevant to them, then they can certainly get a hold of us right there.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you again. And everyone out there, thank you for listening. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe to the Biz Gone Social podcast. And until next week, I'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Biz Gone Social podcast. Find us on Instagram at Biz Gone Social for extra tips. Check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, stay social.